Testing. Hello and welcome to the Hitched podcast, where we help you with all your wedding planning issues and find out more about the world of weddings. This episode, I am joined by Anne Beggs of Anne Nicholas Weddings. So Anne, are you ready to get hitched?
Ready to get hitched.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Good. Let's get going then. So you are a wedding planner.
Yes.
So really, I mean, there's nothing you don't know about planning a wedding. Is that right?
I mean, pretty much. Yeah, I'd hope so.
So tell me a bit about your career and how you got started.
So I got into wedding planning because I used to own a bridal boutique.
Okay.
So that's my background. I had a bridal boutique for 11 years. After having 4 children, I decided I was just going to, with absolutely no knowledge of anything, open a bridal boutique.
Why not?
And it worked for 11 years. And I just found that 11 years is quite a long time to just be stuck in the same 4 walls. And more I was being asked to just kind of go along and help on the day, or when lace-up backs in dresses were a thing,
They're coming back apparently.
Mums were very scared about the old lace-up back, and so they'd ask me to go and lace the bride into the dress. So I just found myself kind of going out and really loving being part of the day, being just part of the buzz. And that was kind of my segue. So kind of come 11 years when I just thought, you know what, it's time for a change. One of the girls that worked for me took over my business and I became a wedding planner and just threw myself into it.
And people, I think when they think wedding planner, they think rich, famous, celebrity. But is that right? Do you have to be big time to have a wedding planner?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I seem to kind of pull from a lot of corporate clients, professionals, doctors, lawyers, people who, have got quite a nice income, but they're just very time poor. So it's, there's a lot of people. I've recently done the wedding for a bride who had a 10-month-old baby. And at the time when she started planning, she'd just given birth and she just didn't have the time or the energy, or it's for everybody these days. It's not just rich and famous people.
And in terms of wedding planning, so you help people during the process, and then on the day, are you there? Are you not there? How does that work?
100%. Absolutely. So I offer, like many planners, I'll offer a full plan service and I'll offer a final month management. Some people call it on the day coordination. Mm-hmm. So I will do everything with full plan, from budget, create a budget and find all of their suppliers, help them with mood boards, help them create just the whole vibe of the day and colours and whatever they want help with. And then on the day, I'm there from beginning to end. I'm there to welcome their suppliers, make sure that everybody arrives on time. They're there, they're where they're supposed to be, doing what they're supposed to be doing, and liaising with the venue and checking in with them. A lot of brides and grooms think that a venue coordinator is their wedding planner.
Yes.
So not. They are not. They work for the venue and the venue is their priority, whereas I work for the couple. So everything is my priority.
I think it's a variable, isn't it, with wedding venue coordinators, because some are very, very hands-on. And I think that's a service more venues are kind of leaning into. But I do think you're right. A lot of newlyweds conflate the idea of a coordinator with a planner.
I have lost couples because they've come to me initially to sort of look for a wedding planner, and then we've sort of started a bit of an email kind of journey, and then they'll come back to me saying, oh, we went to see a venue the other day and they've got a wedding coordinator, so we don't need you. And you just kind of go, and I'm not going to be that person, but in my head I'm kind of thinking, they're not going to do your budget. They're not going to find your suppliers. They're not going to hold your hand through this process. They are not a wedding planner.
And they're looking after lots of other couples at the same time.
They're looking after lots of other couples, where most planners will take on a limited amount of couples per year, depending on what demographic they're going for or what sort of size of wedding they do. I know planners who maybe do 5 weddings a year, but they're all over £250,000 budgets, whereas I tend to do about 12 a year, and my budgets fall between probably 60 and 150,000.
Okay.
So it's just horses for courses, but yeah.
So tell me, what's the best bit about your job?
For me, the best bit about my job is the day.
Yeah.
I love the wedding day, and it's great getting to know the couples. It's great working with them on their vision. Every couple's different and every couple wants a different wedding, which suits me. I don't want to be a cookie cutter wedding planner. That's just not how I work. So I love that. But it's not like the kind of, the J-Lo wedding planner
I was about
film.
to ask you about that.
It's not like that.
What myth would you like to bust?
I would like to bust that myth. I am not walking around with my hair perfectly coiffed all day, every day, smelling flowers and going to menu tastings flirting with the groom and wearing my Louboutins. I'm not doing that. I'm usually absolutely makeup free, sat in front of my computer in my office for 12 to 14 hours a day. And the biggest part of my job is chasing people for replies, chasing people for answers. Like, please respond to me, please. And people don't realize that it's a lot of admin. It's predominantly admin.
I think it's a lot of small businesses, isn't it? And in a lot of small businesses, you are speaking to one person who's doing the bookings, the accounts, the marketing. They're doing everything, aren't they? So.
Absolutely. And when I go back to my couples and say, I know it's been 3 weeks since you asked me to find you a X.
Yeah.
I have emailed 10 people and nobody's come back to me yet.
It's peak season.
I swear to God, they just think I'm lying. They're like, she hasn't done it.
No, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Do you ever, you say you love seeing the couple's visions. Do you ever work with couples where they present a vision and you think, oh no.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
Please, can I have a giraffe?
A giraffe? Real giraffe?
Yeah. That was a request this year, and I said, absolutely not. We're not going to get a giraffe. It's not going to happen. Maybe a llama, but not a giraffe.
You could dress it up.
So yeah, you do, but it's about kind of sometimes exploring an option with a couple so that they feel heard, and that they feel like their idea we've given it a try. Yeah. I did have a couple last year who wanted to have an afternoon tea after the church ceremony, and it was a January wedding? I forget. It was a winter wedding.
Yeah.
And they wanted to have afternoon tea after the ceremony in the church before heading to the venue. And there was just no space.
Yeah.
There was like 100
they're
very, very cold. I couldn't understand where everybody was going to stand holding their cups of tea. And they were adamant that they wanted this. So I fully explored it and found all the reasons why we couldn't do this and why it just wasn't feasible. But they felt heard. And that's the most important thing, is that you don't, as a professional wedding planner, you know instantly if something's doable or not. You just have an instinct. But your couple have no clue.
Yeah, it's the first time they've done it.
It's the first time they've done it. And so it's really important that, you do listen to them, even if you just want to go, absolutely not, that's ridiculous. Don't even think about it. Because they're just going to feel stupid. And you don't want them to feel stupid. You want them to feel like we've explored it. And even though sometimes, this crazy idea can have taken, 20 hours of my time to just be able to tell them this is all the reasons why no, it's a no. That's my job, and my husband says to me sometimes when I'm going, oh my God, he's like, Anne, that's your job. And I'm like, yes, that's my job.
Sounds a bit like when I'm trying to get my 5-year-old ready for something and, you're managing expectations and
that is the key phrase. I'm always managing expectations. Yeah.
Okay, so one thing we've been doing on the podcast is getting dilemmas from listeners to put to our experts to see what they have to say. And somebody messaged me on TikTok with the following, so I'd love to get your take. They've said, my bridesmaid is causing me so much stress in the wedding planning process. I said I was going to my wedding dress fitting, and instead of saying, enjoy it, I hope it goes well, she said, well, what are we going to do about dress alterations for the bridesmaids' dresses? I said I didn't have budget for it, and with shoes, etc., for the length, it's up to you. So she then came back to me saying that she's paying for shoes, so she doesn't think she should have to pay for anything else. The bridesmaids are paying for the shoes and the makeup, but the bride said, I've paid for the dress, the jewellery, and the accommodation for the night before. So what does the bride usually pay for? I'm at breaking point with this, as I've been really upset over the last few months about it, and she has made it all about her. And this is something I'm asked a lot. Like, what do the couple pay for? Like, what do you do in this situation?
Okay, I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Yes, you've got a lot of time, so.
I have a lot of thoughts. I think because I come from a background of owning a bridal boutique as well, so it was something that was constantly kind of in my kind of world that I was having to deal with. The really important thing, I think, a little bit late for this lady, but you've got to have these conversations like early doors with your bridesmaids. There is no good kind of giving them the beautiful box with the will you be my bridesmaid, and then kind of afterwards kind of going, oh, but you've also got to pay for X, Y, and Z. You need to have that conversation at the absolute get-go.
Managing expectations, right?
Managing expectations, because it can really lead to a lot of problems. I've recently had one of my brides sack a bridesmaid because they just fell out over all of the financial aspects.
It's really common.
It really is. And so, my advice would be that if she's offered to pay for makeup, she retracts that and says, I'm really happy to pay for the alterations, but it's an either or. I can't pay for alterations and the makeup. So yes, I appreciate, the dress is going to need altering. Are you happy to do your own makeup or pay for your own makeup? That's probably in this situation how I would handle it. But for all future brides, have a very clear idea of what you're going to pay for before you ask 10 bridesmaids to walk down the aisle with you, because it's a lot. It is dresses, it is alterations, it is hair and makeup and shoes. And if you can't cover all of that, but you want your bridesmaids to have nice hair and have nice makeup, then choose 5 bridesmaids or 4 bridesmaids. Be realistic. It's just not fun for anybody. And it's so sad to fall out with somebody that you feel close enough to ask to be a bridesmaid, and then this starts.
I think I'm seeing more and more now as well. Newlyweds are asking people to be in their wedding party, but saying to them, you choose what you wear. Because that way, not everybody wants to dress the same, because we're not 5.
Yeah.
They can choose what works for them. They can buy something they'll wear again. It takes the pressure off you as a couple having to fund that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they're happy in their own individual outfits. And it actually looks really nice, I think, as well.
It does. I think that, I have had a couple of weddings in the last 12 months. I'm not going to name any names, but I've had a couple of weddings where bridesmaids have all chosen their own dresses, and there's been no thought process at all behind. So I think if you're going to do that, give them guidelines.
Yeah,
set colours or a colour palette.
Yeah.
Do you want them all in long? Are you happy if they go long and short? I'd say absolutely not, but that's just me. I'd go all short or all long, but give them a colour palette to work from, or like one of my brides did, black.
Yeah.
Go and choose a black dress.
And you can wear it again. Black is really easy.
Absolutely. But I think, just clear boundaries and, just setting expectations of what's going to be paid for and what isn't. It's just such an awkward... Everybody hates talking about money.
They do. And weddings, unfortunately, generate a lot of conversations about money. They tend to.
They really do.
So as a professional wedding planner, I want to know, what is the best advice you could give to couples starting out on their wedding planning journey?
I think the best advice would be to set a budget. I think far too many couples go into wedding planning and just don't have any clue. 1, how much things are going to cost. 2, how much they want to spend overall. What's a comfortable amount of money? What can they afford? They get very excited and very carried away, and they go and start looking at venues. And oftentimes people have booked a venue before they've even thought about the rest of the budget. So once they've locked in and they've contracted to a venue, and then they kind of realise, we need a photographer and we need a videographer and we need dresses and rings and flowers and all of this stuff that's going to cost money. And then they realise that there's actually not very much money left in the pot.
Yeah, and they've asked 10 people to be their bridesmaid.
So budget is the most boring bit when you get engaged, but it's the most important part. When I start planning with a couple, I have to be really brutal with them. I say to them, right, what is your budget? What are you going to be comfortable spending? Is there flex in that, or is this a hard stop? Yeah. Because I need to know when I'm, allocating things. And then we talk, we make a list of everything that they want in their wedding. Are flowers a priority? Are they happy with a DJ, or do they want a band? And then I will look at their budget and I will allocate it. So I always say I'm putting it into pots. We're having pots of money for each element of the wedding. And then we've got something to work towards. We've got something to base everything on, because there isn't an infinite amount of money. So you've got to have boundaries on your budget.
And priorities.
And also, if a couple aren't working with a planner, to sit down together and actually discuss what each of your priorities are, because couples have very different ideas about what's important. They really, really do. And I am privy to some really interesting conversations. Because oftentimes when couples do their first planning meeting with me, they genuinely haven't talked about their wedding.
Yeah, they just
to
assume each other
They
knows what
haven't
they
got
want.
a clue.
Yeah.
And half of the time is just spent going, really? You really want that?
You want a bucking bronco?
Yeah, you want a giraffe?
Yeah.
Really? And I'm kind of like, I have to sit there and you know, almost counsel them as we're going along and say, okay, well, if you want that, and then maybe we can, you know, you can have
giraffe,
this.
You're going to have to cut back
We're going to have to cut
the
back
monkeys.
on something else. So it's really important, you know, people have strong opinions that they didn't realise. I've had couples have full-blown arguments in front of me. I've had a bride, I was doing a Zoom call with a couple once. They were both in separate places. We were all on our own Zoom windows, and the bride got so angry that she slammed the laptop down.
We've all been there.
And I'm just left with the groom kind of going, okay.
Any movement on the giraffe, do you think?
So, shall we pick this up again next week? And it's just really awkward.
I suppose you become like a relationship therapist as well.
Absolutely, 100%. It's wild.
I think coming back to the budget, I think it does work both ways. I don't know if you agree, because historically there's been a lot of pricing ambiguity in the wedding industry.
Yeah.
And that makes it very hard for people to know what they should spend. And I kind of am in the middle of it, because I will get vendors say, people are coming to me and they have a budget that's half what my starting price. I'm thinking, but where are your starting prices? Can't see them on your website. You know, you go to a bridal shop and there's not prices on any of the labels.
Yeah.
So it feels very difficult to get an idea of what things should cost. And I think that's changing now. So people are getting a bit more of an idea, and it saves everybody time, because you're not inquiring with people who are so beyond your price limit.
Yeah.
That you're wasting their time and they're wasting your time, you know?
Absolutely. I wish more people would put price guides on their websites. You know, it's on my website. I say what my minimum fee is for planning, you know, because most planners have a minimum fee or percentage.
Yeah.
And that's on my website. And a lot of people don't. And a lot of photographers don't have pricing. And I get it. It's almost like you want them to inquire with you so that you can try and convert them, but it does waste a lot of time. It's you know,
and it just makes it so hard to plan. It leads to disappointment, I think, a lot of the time too.
Absolutely.
Both sides.
Yeah. I had a couple inquire with me about 6 months ago, and jumped on a Zoom with them. They'd come through my website, so I thought, oh, they've seen what my pricing is. They clearly hadn't. And they start talking to me about all of their hopes and dreams for their wedding. You know, they wanted a castle in Scotland. They wanted 150 people. They wanted it to have accommodation. And they just reeled off, you know, lots of lovely stuff. And I was like, absolutely, yeah, we can do that. This is great. Get to the end of the conversation. Have you got a budget in mind? £15,000 to £20,000. And, you know, you have to have a poker face, because, again, I never want anybody to feel... £15,000 to £20,000 is a huge amount of money.
It's a healthy wedding budget.
You know, it's a huge amount of money, and somebody's worked really hard to earn that money. But it's not going to get you a castle in Scotland for 150 people.
With accommodation.
And an open bar. And it's just not. So then I'm having to educate them in the kindest way so they don't feel
and that's where
belittled.
I think context is important for the average cost, because you have, like I say, you have to think about the lower numbers and the higher numbers that come together. But also you have to look at then average number of guests and average spend breakdown overall, and see if that aligns with what you've got in mind. I always think, I kind of call it the wedding triangle, or maybe like the Holy Trinity. So you have your budget, you have your guest number, and you have your venue that you like. And you have to have all these things in line.
Yeah.
Because you can't pick a venue without knowing your budget or your guest number.
Yeah.
But you can't choose your budget without knowing where you want to get married. You know, and that's I should trademark it. It's my
and
wedding
this
triangle.
is why wedding planners are fab, because we can guide you on all of that.
Yeah.
We know.
It is one of those things, I think, that people think, well, I can just decide it's going to be this budget.
Yeah,
but
you can't.
And then another thing I wanted to ask you, as a wedding planner with years of experience, very professional, long history in weddings, have you ever had any big name couples, anyone we would know about?
I have.
Yeah.
I did.
Anyone you can talk about?
And I mean, yeah, I my very first wedding that I had any kind of planning involvement on was somebody who, the bride came to me for her wedding dress, which we designed. And then she just didn't have a lot of other things in place. She had a venue in place, and I just started helping her. She married Mr. David Tennant. So
that is a great place to start.
that was a pretty cool first wedding as first weddings.
How do you top
go.
that?
You just don't.
Still
was
trying.
Great. Yeah, it was great. He was lovely.
I'd be
Bride
going
was
full
lovely.
J-Lo there and
It
falling in
was-
love with the groom.
He was adorable, not going to lie. Yeah, they both were absolutely the loveliest people. So yeah,
Oh,
great,
sure.
great to work with.
Now it's time to play a little game of Hitched or Ditched. And this is where I'm going to give you these two beautifully made,
Okay.
no expense spared paddles of mine. And I'm going to ask you a few questions. And if you love it, it's hitched.
Okay.
If you're getting rid of it, it's ditched.
Okay.
Are you ready? Pass
ready.
these over without knocking anything. So, first things first, chair covers.
100% ditched. Yeah, just checking. Ditched. Hate them. I hate them. They're horrible. Why? Why would you have them? Why?
Do you know what? I think they're going to
Grim.
make a comeback.
Oh, please,
No, I
God,
really do.
no.
In like an ironic, retro way
Literally,
with the big
like,
bows.
They are honestly so horrible.
I think they're going to make a comeback.
I hate them. Please, no. Don't encourage that behaviour, please.
I'm not encouraging it. I'm, equally against them. But
Okay.
I do think I've seen weirder things make a comeback.
Yeah, true. But yeah, for me, it's a definite ditched.
Okay, what about confetti cannons?
Oh, hitched. I take them to my weddings as a surprise for my couples.
That's really
And
nice.
I
It
do
won't be
it-
a surprise now.
Well, it won't, no.
Sorry.
And I always shoot them over them on the first dance as a little kind of
Oh.
like surprise thing.
That's lovely.
Love
They are
them.
really cool, aren't they? And they say like no one can throw it very well.
No one can throw. I mean, I just think as well, if you've done your confetti moment, or some venues don't let you do confetti outside. So doing it for the first dance is quite cool, particularly
I
when
like
they're not
that.
expecting it, because the reaction that you get on their faces, it always makes for great photos. So yeah,
I love that. Okay, evites, so electronic invites.
Oh no, hitched.
Hitched, yeah.
Love evites. I think cost effective. Very green. I'm getting a lot of couples really kind of going down the sustainable route with their wedding
Yeah.
now. I'm very conscious of different elements of their weddings being sustainable. And also, I think, the generations of couples that are getting married now, everybody's just living online. And if you get a paper invite with an RSVP card, they're just not going to post it back to you.
I'm very guilty of this.
They're just not going to post it back to
I'm
you.
the person who's always texting my friends like, so excited for your wedding. When is it again? I'm very bad for that.
Just do the Evite. It's honestly, nobody's sticking it on their fridge anymore. Nobody
No,
needs that
my
paper
fridge
invitation.
isn't magnetic. It's got a wooden door on it.
So yeah.
Food trucks.
Probably here.
Okay, you're not certain though.
I'm not big on food trucks for feeding all your guests their daytime meal.
Okay.
Unless you're doing something really boho and festivally. But I think for evening food, really cool. A pizza truck, or I've done a taco truck before now, which is really cool. So yeah, I think for evening food, yes.
But not for day.
But not for day. That's just
What would
me.
you do for day food? What's your
I do like a sit-down meal.
Do you?
I'd like
Classic.
a plated, yeah. Or family-style sharing is really kind of big right
popular?
now.
But I get stressed because if you're on the take, like I went to one of my partner's friends' weddings and we were with his friends who were all big eaters, and I was there like, what if there's not enough for me? But totally unwarranted because there was. But
Yeah, no, that does worry
Yeah.
me as well. With
I
that.
get nervous,
Yeah.
because I get hangry. Okay, short wedding dresses.
Oh, hitched. Absolutely love a short wedding
Me
dress.
too.
And also I think all of my brides this year have had evening dresses where
Yeah?
they've changed into a short wedding dress. And it's just great. They
love
can
it.
dance.
Yeah.
They want to party. They don't want to, the dress for the ceremony and the dinner is beautiful, but these girls want to party and they want to be able to do it in style. So yeah, short dress.
Gift lists. Asking your guests for gifts, yes or a no, or hitched or ditched.
Kind of a ditched.
Kind of a ditched. Okay.
Kind of a ditched. I think that these days people are going for honeymoon funds, or, like asking people to contribute to one big item, usually a honeymoon, and aren't really doing the whole gift list thing.
Okay.
Most times they're already living together. They don't need another kettle. They don't need, and people, It's not like kind of maybe back in my mum's day where you'd ask for a nice set of cutlery, you know, that would be kept in a big wooden box and brought out for dinner parties. People don't do that anymore. You know, they don't want like posh wine glasses that are only going to be brought out again on special occasions. So I'm just kind of get people to help you with your honeymoon.
And on that one, putting bank details on wedding invitations.
Oh, ditched. I think it's just a bit
too on the nose.
Yeah, it's a bit
Hide it in a honeymoon fund.
Hide it in a honeymoon fund.
Yeah.
Definitely don't put bank details.
See more of that, and it's a polarizing one. I've got to say,
it's a little bit uncouth. I don't know. I'm just a bit old school, but I mean
that's
it's almost like saying, pay to come to my wedding, pay for your dinner.
Yeah,
that's kind of how it feels to me, and I just wouldn't do that.
Crying at the altar.
I mean, I've got to say Hitched because I did it.
Oh, okay, there we go.
I cried like an absolute baby when I got married and could barely get my words out. So that's got to be, I mean, it's cute. And I think the emotion, if it's going to hit you anywhere, it's going to hit you when you're doing your I-do's.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one more because this is quite a controversial one, I think. It divides a lot of people. Children at weddings. Ditched, okay.
So as a mother of 4 and a grandmother of 4, I love kids. I love kids, but not at weddings.
I think
they're a nightmare.
I mean, I am also a parent and I appreciate the time to have a drink and a party.
Exactly.
I think it depends on the dynamic of your wedding. If you want that kind of...
Definitely. Yeah. If you are of an age where loads of your friends have got kids and maybe they don't have parents who can look after them, then what I've suggested to my couples is that we do a creche service.
Yeah.
You know, have somebody come in, at least for maybe dinner and speeches. Mm-hmm. Because there is nothing more boring for little people than sitting through a 2-hour dinner and then potentially an hour of speeches. I mean, also babies at ceremonies, when they start to cry during the vows and the parent doesn't take them out of the room.
Oh,
and
ditched.
I have to kind of...
Ditched.
I have actually had to ask somebody to like step out.
Yeah, you've got
and
to.
she looked at me like she wanted to just kill me. And I just thought, do you not realise that this is like the most important part?
Yeah.
And we have a videographer and anybody can hear is your baby crying. And I feel really mean.
You're okay, you've got 4 children. So
I mean, I have got kids. I'm not anti-kids.
I did go to a wedding recently where during the speeches they had Lion King and they had silent disco headsets for the children and
that
bags.
Is actual genius.
It was really good. My
I'm
5-year-old
stealing
was
that.
She was.
I'm having that idea.
It was
I love.
amazing. Really cool.
That's very cool.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been so interesting and I've really enjoyed hearing all about your job, about David Tennant, about giraffes, everything you've had to say. It's been great. So could you let people know where they can find you if they want to follow you, maybe ask you some questions, find out more?
So I am ann.nicholas.weddings on Instagram and my website is ann-nicholas.com. Oh, I had to think about that then.
You're also on Hitched. I feel
I'm
having
Hitched.
to remind everybody this.
I am on Hitched.
You're on Hitched.
I'm on Hitched.
Thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed that, please do like, follow and subscribe. And as always, you can find out more on hitched.co.uk.